President Trump is calling his impeachment acquittal a victory and says he'll make a public statement tomorrow. Today, the Senate acquitted Mr. Trump on counts of abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. The vote was not entirely along party lines. Utah Republican Senator Mitt Romney voted to convict the president of abuse of power, saying he found the evidence against him overwhelming. Later, Donald Trump Jr. called for Romney to be expelled from the GOP. And tonight, Northeast Ohioans are reacting to the historic vote.
As Tiffany Tarpley tells us, both sides say their fight is far from over.
Guilty! Guilty! Guilty!
Chanting and holding signs, dozens stand in front of the federal building at East 9th and Lakeside in downtown Cleveland to protest what they're calling an impeachment trial sham.
Because if I steal a loaf of bread and somebody catches me, they take me to court and they have a trial and a jury and witnesses and testimony, and none of that has happened with this impeachment trial.
Portage County's Joe Mosioski organized the demonstration in front of Republican Senator Rob Portman's Cleveland office. It's one of hundreds across the country.
The party of Lincoln has become the party of Trump. Fear is a great motivator, and they're using fear to separate people.
We are celebrating the acquittal of our president, Donald Trump.
In Westlake, there is a very different vibe from the West Shore Republicans and its leader, Robert F. Bodie, now that President Trump has officially been acquitted.
Donald Trump is having a lot of success in making America great again. And so what I see are the Democrats, just rather than admitting that and working with Trump to, further that agenda, they just want to remove him.
Two very distinct views in a nation divided, and so are their thoughts on what will ultimately unify this country.
What would bring people together is if they actually looked at what the accomplishments have been.
Start on the little things, justice locally. Number one, get rid of gerrymandering. This state has a real fear of democracy. We need to get back to working together.
The organizer of the Cleveland protest tells me he hopes after the acquittal, people will be galvanized, ready to take action. As for the West Shore Republicans, they're of course not only focusing on re-electing President Trump in 2020, but on local races as well. Tiffany Tarpley, 3 News.